That's our new intro.
Really? That reminds me of the song. I think I found myself a cheerleader. She's always right there when I need her. Ooh, I think I found myself a cheerleader. You know that song?
No.
It starts off as...
Normally, I think you're a really good singer, but I can't tell what song that is.
Since when have you ever called me a good singer?
Just now.
Yeah, for real. Welcome to Hot Marriage, Cool Parents, where we are not very hot and not very cool.
Yes, we are.
We are trying, though.
No, it's a name to strive for.
Hot Marriage, Cool Parents. That's right. If you put the positive vibes out into the universe, they come to you.
Yes. If we said we're hot and we're cool, I think people would not believe us. And I don't think anybody can be fully 100% hot and cool.
Yeah, that's like lukewarm. And who wants to be lukewarm?
No one wants to be lukewarm.
No, but we want to be hot in our marriage and cool as parents.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Always something to strive for.
Yes.
And I think that was really the whole main focus of our most recent trip with Family Made to Nashville. Yes. I was really impressed. And for anybody that hasn't heard, or if you don't follow us on social media, or even the podcast, if this is your first time, we're part of a group that was created by Sean Johnson and Andrew East. One of the coolest married couples that I've ever met, the most gracious and humble and down to earth and extremely hardworking, but their moral and central family core values are just like, it's just so genuine.
Yeah, it really is.
And they've created this network of family-made type content. It's
hence
real,
the name Family Made
exactly.
Network.
You know, real parents talking about real challenges and real issues, and you're getting just the raw side of it. And it's one of the only networks that I could think of that has that central focus where parents have an outlet to go to say, I'm screaming at my kid at night, or I'm so frustrated trying to get my kid to do their homework or read a book or go to sleep. And, you know, it's stories from real parents, but also from experts and authors. And it's just a whole mix. And it was a really great trip.
Yeah, no, it was really cool because we've been a bit, you know, when you work remote like this, like we work in our house for like literally like 90% of our work.
This is all set up. This is our stage.
This is our and if this is our stage, we have a lot. If for those of you watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, then I'll just explain it to you. We have like a bookshelf, I think, that we put some knickknacks on.
It's a built-in bookshelf. This was the office space, obviously.
This is our office, and
right now it's storage.
And it's for, oh my gosh, if I could show you the behind the scenes, I'm looking at a Paw Patrol box that we let our kids. We put in like, you know, we take them to the dollar store and let them pick out some things. And if they sleep in their bed all night, they get to go to this beautiful Paw Patrol box and pick out one of the dollar store goodies. Because we ran out of the Paw Patrol goodies.
Now they don't want goodies. They just want candy.
Yeah, which I'm like, well, that's way cheaper, but way too much sugar.
I tried to make it a bookshelf. I mean, there are books here.
But yeah, no, we have a makeshift, like at home, you know, remote
studio
type
apartment.
No, Doug, it's not a studio apartment. But we have this office that's makeshift. And the point of the story is that we don't get to interact with other professionals very often. We don't we don't work at like a 9 to 5 where we get to go see people. And a little bit of it's kind of isolating when you do this type of work, I guess. So we have the podcast and we have social media, and Doug is adjusting all this audio stuff, and I can hear myself clearer now. So I'm sure
much better.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Doug. But it's like, it was a little intimidating for me, to be very honest, to go to the Nashville where all these people know each other. It seems like a lot of people already live there. They already have friendships with each other, and they already know each other. They work, you know, alongside each other because they get to see each other. And I'm like, we don't have any of that. Like, so we are just kind of like the oddballs. I felt like the oddball going in.
But not really. I mean, some of the people that they had that came are from different parts of the country.
Yeah, but they had already like worked together. Like the Willardsons had already met everyone. Like the Millers live there. I felt like everybody already knew each other except Doug and I, which, you know, like we didn't know. We never met people in person.
And the Gibsons, right?
I don't know. See, and I barely even had a chance to talk to them, the Gibsons.
Oh, yeah. I was talking to, and we had the Gibsons on a few episodes ago.
Yeah. So anyways, I tend to get like that, a little bit like insecure and shy, and like feel like I don't belong, I guess, like in situations like that where people already know each other and they're already friends. And then I feel like it's weird. Like I just walk in and I'm like trying to insert myself into this setting, I guess. And so I felt really awkward and uncomfortable, and also not for nothing.
You didn't seem awkward and uncomfortable.
Thank you. That makes me feel so much better. I
mean, you gravitated towards a couple people.
Yeah. Maddie Jackson had just been on our podcast, and
she's awesome.
She's really amazing, and she's so easy to just be around. Like she's just as cool. Like she's just, and like honestly, her energy, like I had no idea it was going to be like that, but when
Jamie didn't find out that her dad was Alan Jackson, who apparently is a good country singer.
Oh, come on. That's like me saying about Sean, she was an Olympic medalist. And you're like, well, actually, no, she still is. Like once a medal. Yeah. Like, okay, I am an awkward
Once a gymnast, always a gymnast.
But no, I mean, and I did know that her dad was Alan Jackson, and I still was cool. So that's good.
Yeah.
No, she's just so like, I don't know. She's very easy to talk to. Yeah. And actually, honestly, all of them were. And that's the whole point of the story, is that I was very intimidated going into there and thinking I was like the outsider kind of going in. And Doug, I feel like you're closer to Andrew. Like I don't really talk to Sean too often, but you were very close to Andrew and talk to him all the time. And so I know you like, you were like having the best time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know why I get like that. I feel like I don't belong sometimes, and I'm like, I don't like. They all have friendships, and I'm just sitting here like, hello, like.
It didn't seem like it, but it is. It's it was a weird sort of setup, but I'm really happy that they did it this way. So
oh no, me too.
It was a family-made event. Which was kind of like a full day, almost like a seminar in the Woolworth Theater in downtown Nashville. But the night before, Andrew and Sean opened up their house to a game night and to have everybody over, which really I feel like was that was the purpose for anybody that hasn't met the team, hasn't met the people that they've been talking through email, or the other content creators in Family Made. It was a way for us to get together, kind of dress down. It wasn't, like, oh, we're going to just meet each other on stage. No, it was a way to hang out, and
which is
unbelievable.
Yeah,
house.
Which is honestly so kind, because if you think about it, Family Made Network in general, so everyone from the Family Made Network, they're putting on their very first live event. And so Sean and Andrew obviously are the creators of this. And so and
Sean Johnson's a big deal.
Yeah, she's a big deal.
That's a whole nother level of athlete,
but on top of that,
gold medal.
Oh yeah, she's a big deal. And on top of that, she's like super Olympian. Pregnant. On top of that, she opens her home to all these strangers. And on top of that, she's like creating and hosting this whole live event for the very first time the next day. I'm like,
and wow. It was nice to see that they divide and conquer, putting their kids to bed.
Yeah, I mean they were still putting their kids to bed.
Sean
same night.
Put her daughter to bed, and Andrew put his son to bed.
Yeah, no, which is exactly what we do. So literally the same exact thing.
And I mean, the front door was wide open.
Yeah,
they had a hat truck in the front.
Yeah,
which
and then
was amazing.
We got some permanent jewelry. Doug and I match. So
and Andrew, if you're not familiar with Andrew East, he was one of the greatest long snappers that ever lived.
So we probably sound like their biggest fans right now because we're just talking on and on about it. But honestly, I was just so blown away by how humble and generous and hardworking and driven and also like organized. I mean, Doug and I, it's hard to organize your own team of people like working with you.
It was eye-opening.
And they really have their ducks in a row with their team. Their team members are incredible. I think I've told them like so many times, I'm like, wow, you guys are really doing it. I mean, it's not easy, and they all seem to have so much fun together.
Yeah.
And I'm
I mean, part of it though, and we get this a lot on social media, and especially you, people still aren't coming around, I think, to the idea of influencer and content creator as an actual job.
Yeah. People are like, what do you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I do?
Especially when we first got married and when you started to get deals, and representing different companies and products. It was just like people just look at it and be like, oh, well, you're just taking a picture. You're just doing a 10-second video, a 30-second video. And well, what are you doing with the rest of your time?
Yeah. So I remember, I was working at the hospital still, and Henley was a baby. And one of my nurse friends said that she followed, I can't remember what family it was, on YouTube. And she said, oh my God, and they got a mattress for free? And all they had to do was post a video? And I was like, well, first of all, they probably vetted that mattress company to make sure that they genuinely want to work with that mattress company. So that takes time and effort and work. And it's not like, it's one thing if it's like Gerber and that everyone knows and trusts Gerber. Yeah. And so that's an easier collaboration to work with. But some of these mom and pop shops or smaller businesses, it takes time to vet them to make sure that like this is something that you want to not only put your name behind, that you support it, but you want to make sure that anybody who you love that follows you, which is hopefully everybody, like I love everybody who follows me, and you want to make sure that they're getting they're a good bang for their buck.
A good deal.
You want to make sure that the brand it is one of the hardest jobs to be a quote unquote influencer, in the sense that you want to make sure that the brand is so happy with what you're producing, but you also want to make sure that all of your followers are too, that you're not leading anyone astray, that the brand really is that good. And so you're vetting, at least this is what I do anyways. I vet hardcore. I don't just accept any Joe Schmo that wants to work with me. And so it's honestly a lot more work than just throwing up a picture. And
I think it's more accepted now, but I can't tell you how many direct messages I get for people telling me to get a job and calling me lazy because I don't have a career type job like people are used to. It's just so strange. Like you would never reach out to a stay-at-home mom. And granted, I'm not just a stay-at-home dad. Like we do a lot of things, but
even
you
if
would
you
never
were,
reach out to a stay-at-home mom and call her lazy.
Yeah, that's
because she doesn't have
true.
a job, and it's just, I think it's starting to become more accepted, and people are starting to realize, and if you think about it, just like if you were to see a commercial on TV, those people are representing different brands.
But it's
putting
actually,
out a commercial.
I feel like
it's so much more than that, because
I would say it's more than that.
It's so personal.
Yes.
And because the influencer and the creator that you're reaching out to, they're putting their following on the line,
like their whole being, like
people that are trusting you and trusting everything. And yes, there are people that don't want to see all of that type of stuff all the time, because people started following us when we got married. But it's just, it was nice to be in a room full of
content creators and people who do what we do, and you don't get to vent like that all the time, where you can talk about your profession in a way where you're relating to the person. Because honestly, it's not a very relatable profession. Like, how many people do you know that do what we do? And like when I was a nurse, I feel like it was very relatable. It was very instantaneously rewarding. It wasn't like widely known, like, 'cause it wasn't like videoed or whatever. But when I was at the bedside as a nurse, it was my colleagues and that patient and that newborn baby, because I was a labor and delivery nurse, and like the husband. And
you could even jive with anybody that's in the healthcare profession.
Oh yeah, totally. And like when we've kind of stepped into this different role where we're considered quote unquote content creators, which I'm like, I don't even know if I consider myself that, but I guess I am. Or we're considered quote unquote influencers. And I'm like, really, I'm just the same nurse at my core. I am a nurse
100%
that really didn't want to be stuck in a hospital, like in between the walls of the hospital for 12 hours. Because what I really did want was to be a stay-at-home mom. And unfortunately, neither of us were born with like a golden spoon or like any nest egg.
I wouldn't say that you want it. So
no, I really genuinely,
I get it. But what I want to say is you built up like you are so genuine when you call your following friends.
I know, I really do love my friends.
You've always said your dream is to be a host, or to sort of give advice and things like you're doing that, and you've built your following off of that. Like, you are so inspirational to so many women out there. Like, anytime someone sees you on the street, like, I don't think you've ever gave anybody an attitude that's come up to you no matter
no
what.
Way.
But I can't tell you how many times throughout, even when we first got together, how many times people say, thank you for talking about this.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing a real body. Thank you for breaking this stigma. Like, you are doing it, and you are not just an influencer.
I don't want
and
to
I don't
be.
want to, because I don't want to give you that label. Ben, there's nothing wrong with that, because there are people, it's like the Yelp influencers where you're just representing businesses and saying, I like this business because you built your following, and the foundation of your following is women that respect your opinion and love you for you and your
so
realness
sweet.
and your raw and your just unfiltered vulnerability is just, it's amazing. And I don't feel like it's right to call you just an influencer, because you're helping so many people.
Oh, well, that really makes me feel so much better, because I feel like the one thing that I wanted was to be a stay-at-home mom. And like when I was a kid, if I could envision my life, I wanted to, like, in a perfect world, I would be with a man who didn't cheat on me, abuse me, or like steal from me, because that's kind of the guys that I saw, the relationships I saw growing up.
And I would never cheat on you or beat you.
Oh, thank you.
Just steal.
Oh, jeez. So I was like, if I got to choose, I would get married, because I knew it was a sin to have sex before, because I used to go to church a lot.
We waited till we got married.
So I'd get married, get pregnant, have a baby. And then I was like, I'm going to divorce the guy, because he's not going to do all these things to me. And then, but like, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom simultaneously. And I'm like, how can I make this work? And then, obviously you grow up in the real world, and I was working as a nurse, and when God bless the nurses, all the healthcare professionals, really, like the hours are so long. And when you're in that hospital, like you can't leave. Like, you have people's lives, depending on you.
When they talk about essential workers, like healthcare are essential workers.
Like the most essential, in my opinion. But, so, the fact that when we started doing like more TV and more quote unquote influencing and content creation, I was like, this could be like I said, we weren't born with any sort of nest egg. So it's not like either one of us could kind of rely on having a little bit of help in that way. And so I was like, if I got to choose, if I could work from home and be with my children, that's like the next best thing. And so
without knowing that it's the most difficult thing in the world
for real.
to try to get anything done with kids in the house.
When they nap, I'll just go ahead and do this. And like, no, it does not work. Like, you can't, it's like, and that's the thing though, that I've learned, and it's taken me, Henley's 6. So it's probably took me a good 5 years to realize that you really have to differentiate, like, especially for those of you who now work remote at home, and you're like, oh, I can just like have the baby bounce in the bouncer while I'm shooting off some emails. It never works like that. Like, I don't know. I mean,
we tried.
You really think that it can, but it doesn't. And so I
would give online demos simultaneously trying to get Hendrix to not cry while I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
During COVID.
Basically impossible. But the point of the matter is a lot of people ask me, like, are you ever going to go back to work as a nurse? And the truth of the matter is I would love to, except I would like to do it on my own terms, where I'm not like tied down to a hospital, like just, and like right now where I'm at with my children, like I want to be the most present I can be. And so sure, I can't, when I once thought I could work while just like popping them like in the baby in the bouncer seat, or like while the baby's napping. Of course, my kids now aren't babies, like it's a toddler and a little girl. And so that definitely doesn't work. But I also realized that's also impossible. But the freedom, the flexibility of being able to be a podcaster and a YouTuber, and still, working with Married at First Sight, like we fly out. At the time that we're recording this, we fly out tomorrow. So we're recording this episode early so that we can get some other work done. I mean, we do feel blessed, and I know that this is a different world. It's not relatable at all. Whereas, if I was a stay-at-home mom, I feel like that's far more relatable. Or if I was working as a nurse again, that's far more relatable. But for us, this is what's working for our family. Like, I feel blessed that I get to be like a garden mom. And so I can arrange my schedule in a way that I can go to Henley's school every week and help her with her class with the garden, or I can be at field trips. And, when you're working like a 9-to-5 type job, whether it's nursing or whatever, you just don't have that type of flexibility. And so we're like beyond blessed, and I'm very, very thankful for that. And I feel like, if I couldn't be a stay-at-home mom, this is the next best thing.
Yeah. And so it was nice to be around
a bunch of other people who have very unrelatable type work.
Yes.
We kind of related with them, which was nice.
And so when we got to their house, we got there with the Willardsons, and we had the Willardsons on the podcast.
Such great people.
Amazing.
By the way.
Two of my favorite connections that we made.
Just love them instantly.
Yeah. And so we get to the game night, and I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, I want to take this serious. I want to give a good run at any of the games that we play.
Doug is so competitive. He's like, we have to win every single game.
We have to, and we're going to. And so the first game that they decided
Meanwhile,
to play,
I'm just like, oh my gosh, like look at all these people. I don't know any of them, and they're all friends with each other.
Yeah. And so the first game that they announced that they're going to play is spoons. I've never heard of spoons. I love spooning. I've never heard of the game.
Yeah.
And so I had to look it up, which was a really fun game. And it turns out that, I was, next thing I knew, I was on the floor wrestling for a plastic spoon with Alan Jackson's daughter, Maddie.
Yep.
I was really trying, and we broke the spoon, and she got the bigger half. It was kind of like one of those wishbones where she got the bigger piece and won. And I was left to get a bracelet.
Yeah. So we got matching bracelets.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, so that was the night before, the Family Made event. And then at the Family Made event, Doug's addiction was kind of brought up, and we talked about it, and it was just an interesting question. And so, the way that the whole event was set up, they had an author, they had a child psychologist that was on. So we were the last panel, and it was kind of like a parents type of panel. Joey Odom, who was fantastic. I never knew of him or heard of him until the event. And when I say like everybody just felt like we were all friends, like right away. But we were on with the Millers, the Willardsons, the Neras, and then it was also us. And so each couple took different questions. The Willardsons are raising two girls that have disabilities and special needs. The Millers have adopted. They have like 100 kids. Same thing with the Neras. He was on what? He was on The Voice, I think, right? Yeah, he was on The Voice.
And so it was nice to get to speak in front of a live audience of people.
I've really kind of dreamed of being able to, so the thing with nursing that I loved is that I was able to help people, and it was so rewarding. And there's such a disconnect with Instagram. I talk about it all the time, which is why we have the podcast, because I feel like the podcast is a little bit less of a disconnect, but it's still a disconnect, in the sense that we're here and you're there and listening in your earbuds or watching us on YouTube. And there's something about being live with people that I'm really like gravitating towards, that I really want, like having that sense of community. And so when you say like I built up my community, I mean, I guess I have. And when I see you on the streets and you stop me and you're like, Jamie, and you want to hug, like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, wow, like you really exist, almost like I feel like they think the same thing for me. I think the same thing of you when you approach me, because I'm like, oh wow, like you're a friend, and it feels so good. And so that the nicest thing about live speaking engagements is that like you listening right now in your earbuds or if you're watching on YouTube, it's like for me, you really exist, and so when you comment or you DM and you write to me, that feels like you exist, and it's so nice to have that. But then to be able to see you face to face, like that feels so good in my heart. And then to know that I'm doing something or saying something that either inspires you or helps you. I mean, that right there is I feel like that's my life's purpose. Like that's like
I do too.
It just makes me feel
like that's your calling.
Yeah. Like ever since nursing and like being able to help someone and being able, the most rewarding thing is just knowing like at the end of your shift that you can see, you just know that you help people. And switching over to this like online thing, it's a little more difficult because it's not like you can see it really. And then
there's no coworkers.
And like when you comment and you DM and you write the 5-star reviews, like truly it means the whole world to us, because that's how we know that we really are like connecting with you.
And speaking of 5-star reviews, PR Girl 47 writes, relatable. Love this for anyone who maintains a relationship while raising kids. Such a fun show.
Oh, thanks. PR girl. Yeah, no, truly. Like, I'm glad you think we're relatable. Although, like I said earlier, we're a part of, like, when I was a nurse and Doug was in sales and we were just kind of like that normal 9-to-5 type people. We were a bit
still wasn't 9 to 5.
No, that really wasn't 9 to 5. I was working night shift and that was just something. I was a zombie, but God bless all the night shift workers, because it is hard. But, it means a lot. And so I'm really kind of I'm like praying right now about like, what is my next chapter in life and how can I help more people, and also like feel that, like, that sense of, I guess like reward really is the best word. Like,
well, I think that, and I'm not a overly religious person at all. I mean, we really started going to church, or I started going and paying attention more at church, I should say. But one thing that I have learned is the value in serving.
Yes.
And I feel like good things come to people that serve others.
I agree.
And that made me think of you.
Oh, geez, Doug, thanks. Yeah. That's like the sweetest, like the nicest compliment ever.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's all that to say, we really enjoyed our very first speaking event, and we're so excited because we obviously work closely with Family Made Network. So we asked if we could share our snippets from
our segment questions, and it should be fun. So we, the event was in Nashville, and people came from all over the place. Like, there was the majority of the crowd was not from Nashville.
Yeah. And
they were
actually,
from all over.
Shout out to Diana, and if you've listened to the podcast or followed along, then you know that Diana is my sister from another mister, like best friend, like former assistant. She worked with us for, I would say, probably 8 years before, and then she got pregnant, which I'm so happy for her. We got to meet her baby.
Yeah,
she just had her baby.
Made the trip up.
And she drove 3 hours to come to that event. And
yeah, it was really cool.
She's just such a gem of a human, and I really miss working with her, and I love her so much. But then we also got to meet many of you. Like, we met Ashton, this woman who she had like also a 6-week-old, and she was, I was like, oh, and then she tagged me in her picture, and I was like, oh, it's just so nice to meet you guys.
Who was it? Molly? Was it Molly, the other one that we met?
Yeah, I think so.
What's his face's mom that came in?
Oh, she was Melody.
Melody.
That's Melody was awesome. Shout out to you, Melody, if you're listening to the episode.
But what I was going to say was, not everybody would have had the chance to see it. So this is going to be the first time that anybody will really be able to hear it, other than
if you were at the event. So without further ado, we're going to pop in the audio from our very first live speaking event from Nashville.
Yes.
And I hope you enjoy it.
And you should be able to tell which one's Jamie and which one's Doug speaking.
Doug, speak about yourself in the third person.
I've always wanted to do that.
Love is a choice, and it's not always pretty. It's not always, fun and games. But if you choose to be there with that person day in and day out, and you know that they're choosing that too, then you've won the lottery of life.
We were able to choose whether we wanted to stay together or get a divorce. And we chose to stay together, and every day we choose to stay together. One of the things that really saved our marriage was therapy. There was always a stigma around therapy, and I was never one to share my emotions whatsoever, share anything about it. I was the oldest child. I was a captain of every sports team I've ever played on. Sharing my emotions and admitting my faults and all that was just not in my DNA. Until I met someone that openly talks about her flaws and mental health and everything, and it's just getting all of that out takes such a weight off of you. Like, you have no idea when you trust the person that you're with wholeheartedly.
And I feel like if there's one thing you can do to help free yourself and live more fully in life, it's to share these skeletons in your closet or these demons that you're hiding. Because when you let that out, well, first of all, you're gonna find your tribe. You're gonna find other people who have gone through very similar experiences, and they're gonna be there to support you because they're looking for that same support.
Those were some great questions, I thought. But I also was a little kind of taken aback because I didn't want to speak about your addiction necessarily, that was
to take you behind the scenes. while we were on stage. It was kind of like a smoky sort of theater where you're looking out and you're seeing faces, but there was lights. And then there was a big TV screen up there where Sean and Andrew, like they were using that for different notes and talking points. And
which I never really saw
at
that
one
TV.
Point,
no one told me there's a TV there that said to like pay attention to, and it would say, wrap it up, girl, you're talking too long.
So Jamie and Shannon Willardson were on the same couch, and I was on, when there was me and Chase Willardson were kind of sitting behind our wives on like stool type of chairs. And I'm looking out to the audience and I just see a big flashing red light flashing on the TV saying, wrap it up. Wrap it up. And this is usually when Jamie says, long story short.
And then my story gets longer.
It goes longer. But
true.
Yeah, I mean, that was other than the podcast, that was the first time I think that I've ever spoken in public about
well, you've never
addiction.
Talked about it publicly,
like
ever.
Publicly, or even, like not many times privately like that.
So how did you feel about that? And so the biggest thing I was trying to get to, which of course I wasn't. I don't
think you got to it.
I did not get to it. I wasn't expecting that, and that they asked me about it. And so I'm like, I think what I was trying to say in that very long-winded answer was essentially none of us are perfect. And, if I had known, in the beginning of our marriage about this, we wouldn't be married right now, which is such a shame, obviously, considering like, I feel like we are soulmates and meant to be together. And I feel like there's a reason that you waited. And instead of me just being bitter and angry, which I could have easily done.
Yeah. And it would have been justified.
Yeah. Instead of that, I wanted to I took a step back and I thought about it and I'm like, but of course you wouldn't tell me, because you knew about what with my mom and you knew what my deal breaker was. And I mean, no one's proud of that anyways. And so you never even felt safe.
It ruined 2 other relationships that I had.
Yeah. And so of course you wouldn't.
because I was sober.
And so I feel like anyone who, I guess just looks on the outside, it's probably odd that I did have a reaction, but I guess I was very accepting. It's like, wow, I feel like Jesus did a lot of work in me, like, because I really did just accept you. And I could actually see from your shoes rather than my own shoes and so it was very easy for me to be like, instead of thinking he's held this from me for all these years and I shared everything with him, I was able to be like, wait a minute, he finally feels safe enough with me.
Your reaction
enough with me.
It's weird because your reaction, and like sort of just graciousness and accepting makes it easier to talk to people about, because you don't get that reaction. I think there's a lot of hesitation, and especially for me when I was working in sales jobs, after I got on the show, people would recognize me. Even over the phone, people would recognize me. And I was always so scared of that becoming an internet headline.
How would that become an internet headline, though?
Well, when your book came out.
Oh.
When your book came out, there was a headline and it had a picture of me. It was kind of like a joke type picture, like ironic, because I think it was for New Year's, and I was holding like 2 bottles of alcohol in my hand and just kind of like looking like this in a wife beater, and there was a picture of it, and that's what they used for this article online where it said, Doug, it was something, it was almost like clickbaiting, where it was just like booze and substance abuse, and then it was like that. And I remember one of the managers from iSims where I worked sent that article to my brother and said, this may be bad for business.
Wow.
Yeah. And, like that was always the hesitation of making it public. Because
which is
I don't
so
think
sad, because that is just so sad.
It is. And my first reaction,
how can you ever share your real,
anytime somebody, and we talked about this on a previous episode when we went to some event and somebody told me that I looked real skinny, and I got super defensive and I was offended by it. But it was like, that's that was always my reaction. You know, like I was just like, well, tell him to mind his own effing business, you know, like, you know, tell him to read the article, tell him to read my wife's book. And here I am just trying to like justify the title and trying to justify, you know, well, that's not really it. And it's almost like, you know, like, and, you know, when haters would reach out, you know, I even said it to you a couple of times, just like, well, you know, what are you trying to do? Are you going to have them over for Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
Are you going to, you know, turn this person over? But, you know, like I always wanted to defend myself, and I always saw it as, you know, I think probably a weakness, you know, and
you mean the addiction?
Yeah. The addiction part of it, like, you know, and just not wanting to admit it or openly talk about it.
Yeah.
Just because you never know how it would be received. And it was just like time and time again where, you know, you sort of inch your way out of the door, but then something happens and you just close it again right away because you know, either you're not ready or the people you're around are not ready, or you think they're not ready.
But really it comes down to just you not being ready because just like you said, Doug, like,
but they're
going to judge anyways.
Yeah. You made it okay for me to talk about.
How did I do that?
Your reaction to it and how you handled it and just your demeanor and acceptance like that made it okay for me to share because like
I know I'm getting a little teary-eyed. I wasn't expecting this.
Because you matter to me most. And I knew if I had that, like, that's all that mattered.
That's nuts, though. I can't believe I matter to you that much.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you did more for me in that part than... Yeah.
But I honestly, like, I'm just sitting here and I'm literally, like, thanking Jesus because somehow he softened my heart towards my mom. Like, you know, like, I somehow, I don't know how this happened, because I was so bitter for so long, but like somehow I don't even know how this happened.
You had kids and realized how hard one kid was, and you were like, my mom had to deal with five.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And she had no support and a men that beat her and all these things. And I'm like, geez, like, sure, she kind of, you know, left us and abandoned us, but like, who was there for her? And like in this world, you got to have a support system, you know? And so I think that I really believe, though, that God softened my heart because I was bitter for so long. And I just really kept my mom at...
Oh, and it showed.
Oh, I was so bitter. Just because the things she did really were so incredibly hurtful for not only just me, but my siblings. And then being their guardian, watching them be hurt over and over and over again by our mother.
But you had every right to be bitter. Like, your reaction and your feeling, like, you know, it wasn't a normal situation. So, you know, like, I just hope you don't think that you, like, your bitterness was a poor reaction, or you question
a little part of me, just
your
because
actions.
I feel like no one ever, now that I'm an adult and I look back and I'm like, man, no one ever loved my mom unconditionally. Like, and all she ever wanted all her life was just someone to love her unconditionally. And I'm like, man, but I guess I feel like God has really showed me that in the sense that I can maybe try to do that now. And it doesn't mean, like, you know, I got to have the boundaries and all that for our kids and for myself. But I feel like God truly has, like, I mean, this is definitely not something I did because I just didn't have, I mean, I was so depressed and had my own issues. And I don't know what's happened, but I feel like I've been praying more and, you know, just like believing and having faith more. And it's just amazing. And I feel like that, me accepting my mom and kind of understanding, like, I feel like it's twofold, like the way, and then in that, like my heart softening for her helped me receive like the extent of your addiction, I guess. And like the fact that you hid it from me for so long, but then simultaneously, me knowing like how great of a person you are and how much, and like how you're not at all that person now, like, you know, like that, like I needed to know that before you could tell me that anyways, because otherwise how could I, if I didn't know you that well, I wouldn't want to take that risk.
That would have been the label.
Yeah.
That would have been.
It would have been awful. And so it's like twofold for me, because also seeing how great you are now after being sober for pretty much our whole marriage. You
more than our whole marriage.
Yeah. You've been on the medication. So you've been sober our whole marriage. And so, but also taking the medication. So for me, I'm like, it just kind of helps me realize that even with my mom, who is still battling, you know, she's trying her best, and I will love her truly. Like, I just think the woman deserves love at this point, regardless of what she's doing. And so I will love her no matter what, but it helps me kind of have hope that maybe, because I never had hope for my mom before. It kind of gives me a little hope that maybe if she had some support and medication, that the old her that I remember could kind of come back. But, you know, we'll see. And either way, I'll just love her. And
you know, she knows that.
Yeah, no, I know. She knows that now, but I mean, it was some rough times.
Yeah.
I don't even know how we got there, but that was our, and you know, I really do want to just say thank you to those of you listening, who've been here for us. I mean, really, we have had the thick of it and the thin of it all shared and shown on display for the past nearly 10 years. And like you
pretty
with us
everything.
right now, it makes me think of the Taylor Swift song. Forgive me, I'm such a Taylor Swift fan, but her song Reputation, and how, you know, we have a bad reputation right now. Like, it's not necessarily bad, but like you said, when my book came out, and like, I just feel like, and then like when I was let go from Married at First Sight and my depression, and it's just like, and I feel like my marbles were gone. It's not like we were on cloud nine. It's not like we have been on cloud nine over here, like succeeding at everything in life. We've really been in the thick of it. And you right now listening, I mean, it means the whole wide world to me, because
to both of us,
both of us, because you're with us during our low right now in life, and we're only going to go higher, and we're going to take you with us.
Yep.
I promise you, like the people who are with you and stand by you when you're at your lowest in life, they're the ones that you're going to take with you when you're at your highest, and you're going to celebrate with them. And I'm taking you there with me.
And if you see us out, make sure you say hello.
Yes, we absolutely love meeting you and saying hello.
Yes.
And
before we wrap up though, there's one thing that I wanted to clear up. Because, and this is mostly for a lot of people that saw that I was going on a night scuba dive.
Oh yes. Doug has been wanting to be able to update.
Yes. So I don't know if you want to share the reasons why you don't want to scuba dive anymore. We don't have to go into it.
That might have to be for the next episode, because
it's kind of funny.
I got to go get our kids soon.
Yeah, so
it's not funny at all. It's really scary. Actually,
it's scary if you think about it from overhead point of view.
It's really
scary.
But
I found someone that.
I found someone
that not just goes scuba diving, but was a scuba dive instructor. And I've always had this idea of wanting to go scuba diving at night. One, because I feel like it's terrifying, but exciting and exhilarating, and just something that I wanted to do. And it's almost like skydiving in a way, but I feel like it might be a little bit less risky in a way. But so there was this big buildup, and so I meet him at the dive shop in the morning, and I was posting about it, and I realized that I never gave a conclusion to that story. So we drove out there, I met him at the boat, and it was him and his wife, which
already sounds like a bad movie scene. I'm like, is my husband coming back alive?
We go at sunset, and I want to say it was about 6 miles offshore. He's dove there before. This is usually where he does his spear fishing. There's a reef that's out there. So we dock. It's still a little bit light out. And as the sun starts to set, that's when we start to gear up. And that's when I noticed my breathing's a little heavier. And I'm like kind of excited, but it was more nervous. And normally if you've gone scuba diving, like you put everything on and it's heavy. But you also have this big tank of air and what's called a BCD, which is a buoyancy control device. So it fills with air, deflates to help you either go up to the surface or drop down. Normally, a lot of people will need weights strapped into the BCD, And anytime that I've gone, Jamie and I, we always have a belt too, like a weighted belt. So the last couple dives, I've had 22 pounds and 24 pounds of weights on me, which keeps me keeps me sinking.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes you'll just stay up, and if you don't have enough weight, there's no amount of air and breathing that'll allow you to get down. So, I'm wearing the wife's BCD, and it's a new regulator. We get hooked up, and I'm starting to go down the rope, and it is pitch black, and all I can see is just the couple feet in front of me with my flashlight. And I start going down, and I notice that I can't breathe. It's almost like if you imagine breathing through a straw. And it was like really hard for me to go, like, to get air. So like I'm circling my wrist to get his attention because he already went down. I pop up and the wife looks, she goes, "Are you okay?" I go, "I can't breathe out of this thing." He pops up, he clears it for me and does it. He goes, "Okay." And he adjusted the air intake in on my tank. And so now we're going back down the anchor line, and I'm pulling down the anchor line.
This is the funny part.
Trying to get down, and I let out all the air and everything. So I'm pulling down, and I'm going down further. I'm clearing my nose, which you have to do because your ears pop. And I'm pulling down the rope, and the rope turns into a chain, which is when you know that you're getting towards the anchor part. That sticks into the ground.
Should indicate that you're at the bottom of the ground.
So now I'm like pulling, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So I go to look up to where I was, like just to look around me. And the top of my head pops on the surface of the water. I wasn't going down. I was pulling the anchor up.
He's like clearing his nose.
On the top of the water, the surface of the water. I think I'm like 10 feet down. I'm not. And I can't get down. I could not sink whatsoever.
Oh, man.
I could not descend. I let all the air out.
The funniest part is that you're like equal. So when you blow out your nose, it's equalizing yourself. And so you're supposed to do that when you're going real deep in water so that you don't get, what's it called? Like pressure sickness or something of that nature.
Well,
and so he's like equalizing himself, and he hasn't gone down. He's like thinking he's going down real deep in the water, but he hasn't left the surface.
But because it's pitch black. And when you look down,
embarrassing? It's just funny.
No, when you look down, no, because it is. I think it's hilarious.
Oh my gosh!
Because when you look down into the water, you only see what's in your flashlight view. So everything looks like you could be however many feet down, and it all looked the same. And I just remember just popping my head up and being like, "Oh shit." It's like, I'm not going down at all. And so he comes up, he's next to me, and I'm just like, I go, "Listen, I can't get down." He goes, and I was just like, I kind of thought this may happen, but it felt like I had enough weights on there, but he didn't have a belt. And so we had to cancel the dive. But while we were swimming back to the boat, I did see a big group of fish swimming underneath us. But it was like I was snorkeling.
How did you see a group of fish though?
Because on the boat they had a light that was down, that was
so cool,
spotted down towards where the line was and where the anchor, where we were going down, as kind of like a guide. And so when we came up, I was just like, I can't get down. And he's like, "Well, release the air." And I was like, "All the air is released, and I still can't get down." So that was the conclusion of the night dive that I had. And I do have to say, when we got towards the boat and on the back of the boat, like I kept saying I was sorry, because like I made this big build up, like I really wanted to go, and there was just like things that happened that prevented it. But I was just like, I'm really sorry. And so I remember he looked at me, and it was the nicest way of saying this too, because he wasn't condescending. He wasn't like making a joke, but he was just like, he goes, "You know what? I think it's going to be better if we check out the area that we're going to dive during the daytime, so you can see what's down there and you can see the path that we're going to take, and then we'll do the night dive." Because I think he either sensed that I was super nervous, or just was unsure of myself. And he didn't put me on blast for that. So I want to say, Ubi, thank you.
Yeah, Ubi is his friend's name, and new friend. And so next week at the top of the episode, I'll tell you, I have to go run and grab Henley and Hendrix and then head to the gym. But next week at the top of the episode, I'll tell you about why I don't want to go scuba diving anymore. And I've been several times with Doug. I think I've been 10 times. And something happened between the last time and the fact that I haven't done it again is like because of whatever happened. And I'll tell you, I haven't told anybody except like
it'll be a good story.
Only my husband and a couple of people, because it's a little like kind of can't believe it happened kind of thing. But yeah, I'll tell you about that. And anyways, thank you so much as always, Doug.
It's magical.
Doug and his sound effects. My gosh. Thanks so much for being here with us. We love you guys. I hope you have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.